So, today we're going to discuss the new completely thing that completely different from another series that we have already discussed. It's called feminism. Feminist theories criticise both like realism and liberalism by asking a very simple but in some sort powerful question. Whose experience have been taken seriously in international politics and um whose have been ignored? Traditional theories tend to treat states as abstract, rational actors, but feminist scholars argue what is what that this approach hides the real people affected by global decisions, especially women and marginalized groups. From a feminist perspective, realism is criticized for its narrow focus on military power, conflict, and state survival. These ideas are often associated with traditionally masculine values such as dominance, control, and competition. Feminist theory points out that this focus sidelines other forms of power such as social, economic, and structural power, and ignores actually how wars and security policies affect civilians differently depending on gender. For example, um, women are more likely to experience displacement, sexual violence, and economic insecurity during conflicts. Yet these issues are often treated as a secondary in a realist analysis. Okay, so the second one that we're going to discuss, like to distinguish liberalism from feminism. Liberalism, while more inclusive in some ways, is also critiqued by feminist theory. But also, liberalism values cooperation or human rights, and yeah, also liberalism thinks that it's more like better to have a I don't know cooperation institute and international institutes. It often assumes that progress benefits everyone equally, but feminist scholars argue that this is not always the case. International institutions and global government structures are still dominated by elites, mostly men from powerful states, which means gender inequalities can be reproduced even within systems that to claim to promote equality around the world. So, one of the most important contributions of a feminist theory is the focus on a gender as a structure of power, not just as a social category like women and men. Gender shapes who has authority, who is protected, and who is considered expandable in global politics. Feminism also introduces the idea of intersectionality, that like understanding that gender interacts with other factors such as like race, class, ethnicity, and nationality. This actually helps it actually helps explain why global politics affects people differently, even within the same country or conflict. These insights are specifically valuable when we look to the at contemporary issues like conflicts, resolution, and securities. Feminist research has shown that peace processes are more durable when women are meaningfully involved in the negotiations. This challenges the traditional assumption that security is only about armies and borders, instead of like feminist theory promotes the idea of human security, which includes access to healthcare, education, and economic stability, and as well as freedom and the freedom from violence. So in a global governments, feminist theory pushes us to rethink how decisions are made and who voice are heard. It encourages more inclusive institutions and policies that recognize everyday forms of violence and inequality, not just like large-scale wars or diplomatic crises. This perspective actually helps us better to understand issues like refugee protection, humanitarian interventions, and post-conflict reconstructions. So, in conclusion, I want to say just overall, feminist theory doesn't simply reject realism or liberalism. It absolutely expands as well as English school. It expands them by highlighting power relations, and the intersectionality. Feminism adds depth to our understanding of international relations and reminds us that global politics is not just about states and strategies, but about people. and lived experience. Actually, these insights are, um, how to say, increasingly relevant to today's world, where security and government challenge are complex, interconnected, and deeply human. So even now, when we can see that a lot of conflicts around the world, feminists mostly think that is all of them was caused by the masculine like mans who can't negotiate without some sort of power thing. So in a for feminists, men are like violent from nature, and they wanted to achieve it like to achieve the how to say equality in the government, like for men and women, but mostly maybe if they prefer to have a women general in the government from a feminist perspective. Yeah, maybe it's more far right feminist, but anyway, it uh maybe has to be explained as well. So okay, that's end. Thank you.